our immune system is a series of cells and tissues and organs, and throughout our lifetime, it protects us from different diseases and keeps us healthy so that we're able to resist infections. Simply put, our immune system is like a gatekeeper for anything that enters our body. It determines whether it's harmful or it's harmless and then acts accordingly. When we talk about bacteria and viruses that enter our body takes action. And that action basically is whether it needs to fight the infection or attack the bacteria. That's what our immune system does. Now, when you look at babies when they're born, they get these immune cells from the placenta and from the breast milk. But what about the growing kids, right? For them, it's all about the food they take. And today, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Ania Wojtkowska of Living Veggie by Ania. And she's here today to tell us all about how we can build immunity for growing kids by the food that they take in. Hi, Ania. Welcome to the parenting seminar for the Young Dreamers Art Festival.
Hello, Nira. Hello to everyone. Thank you very much for having me. I do hope we'll have a very interesting session. Thank you very much for the introduction. And yes, just to adapt the food, we are what we eat, whether we are kids or whether we are grown-ups. That's the same rule applies to everyone.
So true. So true. So Ania, my question to you is, what is this relationship between the immune system and our diet?
So actually, that's a very good question because it might seem unrelated on a first glimpse, but actually 70% of our immune system starts in our gut. It starts in our tummy. So that's why it's very, very important what we eat. And very often when you can see all those supplements in a store, to boost your immune system, these are really just a few vitamins like C, A, or E vitamin. So everything what you can actually get from food. So once you have a healthy gut, that's absolutely a baseline to have a healthy immune system. You cannot have a strong immune system without proper diet. And also second level, it's our hormones. They do impact the immune system, and hormones also are related to our diet, here especially on a healthy fats. So first of all, obviously, if we are malnourished and we don't eat enough fat, then there is imbalance with our hormone level. But also, if we are eating wrong fats, like saturated fats, that has a very negative impact on our hormone levels. Women might be more sensitive than men, and also girls after menstruation, they might be a bit more sensitive to that, but it's very important to remember with children to develop a healthy hormone system. You have to think about healthy fats in the diet, like nuts, seeds, avocado, versus, for example, saturated fat from junk food.
Right. And can you tell us a little bit more about saturated fat versus the non-saturated or unsaturated fat?
So basically, saturated fat can be found mostly in the junk food, but not only. Majority of the cake, sweet bakery products which are available, those manufactured, they do contain saturated fat, which is really, really bad. That's what in the future leads to cardiovascular diseases. That's a great example. And people say that a lot of diseases, like heart diseases, are genetic. And they are not genetic in a physiological sense. They are genetic in a cultural sense, because once you grow up with certain foods, with certain understanding what is healthy, then you continue that through your whole life. So if your parents were eating unhealthy, they got a heart disease, yes, you will get it as well. But that's not because you have some gene from your parents. It's because you actually took over the eating patterns. And that's you as a parent, you have a great chance to break the pattern. When you see, for example, that as a treat, a lot of parents taking their children to, I don't want to name the chain, but the big hamburger chain, you see that once they start age of 7, 8, 9, they will be 20 and 30 years old, and they will see it in their mind. This is a pleasure, this is a reward, and it shouldn't be. That shouldn't be a reward. You can still take your children for the nice meal out and find them maybe, I don't know, nice spaghetti, something for what they like. But remember that you teach them that in childhood, so you're responsible very often for the eating patterns for the whole life. That's why a lot of diseases are genetic, but you can break the pattern.
Right. I mean, that's a very interesting point that you made about genetic doesn't mean that it's in your DNA, but it's basically your habit or your pattern. And that's the reason why, you tend to see that the parents and then the kids and then their kids seem to have that because it's actually more of a habit or a pattern in terms
Yes.
of the.
Yes, exactly. So that's why parents here are very powerful. You can actually change everything. It's in your hands.
All kids like sweets right now, and it's okay. I mean, they like cakes and biscuits. So and again, I agree that when we buy them outside, it's got lots of ingredients, and I always remember every time we speak, you say, look at the ingredients, look at what's in there. When we make at home, we probably use 4 or 5 ingredients when
Yes.
but when we look at what's available outside, there's so much more in there. The other thing is, and I remember we made baguettes at home and it was very cumbersome, but we made them and literally in 3 days or 4 days, we didn't finish them and they were moldy. Whereas bread that we buy from the stores, it goes on and on and on, and the biscuits go on forever. So obviously there's some gap in there that we are not seeing.
Yes, well, that makes you think. What do they add? And again, that's something what you can do for your children. To teach them a very useful life skill, which is cooking. B, it's actually a good quality time together where you can maybe Friday nights or during the weekend you can together talk and cook. You can that's a quality time together, which counts more than probably sitting watching TV. And at the same time, you teach them very very useful life skill, and you would be sure you know what will go to your kid's tummy, because all those preservatives, all the coloring, they have a negative impact on our health and obviously on immune system, because then your immune system focusing on fighting off all those chemicals when actually should build to get stronger and stronger.
Yeah. So what you're saying is all those added ingredients actually don't serve any good purpose. So most likely they're just really, really bad for us, whether it is bad in terms of the entire body's health or immunity, they're just bad.
Yes, and especially with the younger children, they cause a lot of allergies. You could see then there are skin problems at the childhood, and that comes from all the artificial ingredients which are in your food, and it's absolutely everywhere, starting from the frozen products like pizza, going to cakes, the biscuits, lollipops. And as you say, Nina, read the ingredients, because there are actually a lot of good products on the market. It's not like everything is bad. But unfortunately, you have to check the ingredients before you decide what to buy.
Sure, great point. And in terms of the nutrients, what would you say are some of the right nutrients that we can give our children to build their immunity?
So first, the most important are protein. The protein are building the antibodies. That's to respond to virus, for example. And as a grown-ups, we need about 0.5, 0.6 grams protein per kilogram of our body. Children need about 1 gram, so about double what the adults need. And you can find a lot of good quality protein, whether it's plant-based or whether it's lean meat or fish. So just remember, it's not only pasta and rice, and you have to serve some protein to your children. If they don't like it, you can actually, there are a lot of great recipes when you can bake a cake with chickpeas and then with the all cacao and maple syrup. This is pure protein, but it looks like a chocolate cake. I'm sure that kids will love it, and at the same time you provide them a protein. So I would say protein, number one, children needs about 1 gram per kilogram of the body, so more than we do. Then antioxidants, these are very powerful nutrients which are responsible for fighting off free radicals, which are bodies in our body, and they respond. They're like a first response to all the viruses, bacteria. Vitamin D that help to regulate production of the immune cells. That's actually very, very important. Here living in Singapore, it's actually not so difficult to get vitamin D, because there are studies which shows that between 20 or 30 minutes exposure on sun, it's enough. It does depend on the skin color. So the darker you get, but I'm sure you can find out, you can check with your GP. No need to supplement it. When in Singapore, sun is for free. They said this is not a dark country where the 6 months of winter, that's the place where I'm coming from, and people do have to supplement it. But here in Singapore, let them play outside, and actually that's as important as nutrition. It's also the fact that kids actually have some physical activity. It doesn't have to be sport, they can just play with other children, but that gives them exposure on sun and vitamin D, which is absolutely crucial. Then vitamin C, which is absolutely the star when we talking about immune system, and you can see it in all these expensive supplements. And it's really just a marketing trick, because vitamin C is in almost any fresh produce, whether you buy an orange, apple, broccoli. No point to get it from artificial sources. So vitamin C helps absorb other nutrients to start with, and also boost your immune system. Vitamin A, which is anti-inflammatory and it's very important. It helps to build the mucus in your eyes, in your nose, in your lung, and that's a first response. Also when it comes to coronavirus, that's the first response when it comes to viruses. And vitamin A, any orange vegetable, pumpkin, carrot, butternut squash, that would be great. And omega-3 acids, something what we do forget, but they have a strong anti-inflammatory properties, and they also enhance the immune system cells, and you can find them in fish, chia seeds, walnuts, so you can use it even in a dessert. If you sprinkle your ice cream with a chopped walnuts, that's already omega-3 acids. So it doesn't have to be, it's not always a healthy salad. I understand it's difficult to convince children to maybe eat a green salad, but even if you serve them a healthy fruit ice cream and you add the chopped walnuts on the top, if it's equivalent about 15 grams, that's already enough to cover their omega-3 acids needs. As we know, this is a multi-million-dollar industry, and it's a great idea to say for children and for grown-ups. It's don't worry what you eat. Here we have a magic solution for you. Unfortunately, there are not any magic solution in life, and it doesn't work like this. I do believe, especially if that's what you teach to your children, that don't worry about your diet. We give you this supplement, this bears, which looks lovely and they taste very nice, and that will cover your needs, nutritional needs. I think that might develop the wrong notions in their mind, and the wrong approach to whole nutrition in their adult life. So it's great invention if your GP will tell you that at this time your child needs iron, calcium, and it does happen. And I am not against it, that if it's needed, use it temporary, but that cannot be a long-term solution.
Got it. So there's no substitute for good food.
No, no, unfortunately not. But it's the same rule for adults.
Yes, very true, very true. So you mentioned berries, you mentioned walnuts, chia seeds, green vegetables, and again, kids particularly may not have a salad, but then we can always like blend it in and then just kind of mask it in other things for to make it more fun for the kids. What other foods would you recommend would be good to build a strong immune system?
Nuts and seeds are the great source of the healthy fats, which we're talking in relation with the hormone system, and also antioxidants and other nutrients like zinc. And again, they are very versatile. You can use them in a dessert as well. You can get peanut butter, almond butter, as long as there is no sugar added. They will also contain a lot of nutrients, and I'm sure most of the kids will like it. Any fruit and vegetables, really, it's eat the rainbow, and there are so many colors, and each color is really sort of responsible for different nutrients. So we mentioned the orange vegetables. There are red vegetables like tomatoes. You can get eggplants and obviously green vegetables. And as you mentioned, I understand that it's difficult to give a salad, but some of the green vegetables, if you do the morning smoothie with pineapple and strawberry, and you throw a bit of kale or spinach, most kids will not taste it. It's still there. I do conduct cooking classes when we do the burgers for kids with a lot of grated courgette, for example, and it's all masked over there, it's hidden, but it's still there. So I would find a way to smuggle as much as possible 3 times a day.
Right. And, what about things like Yakult? Because it says, it's live lactobacillus and kids love drinking. I mean, my kids love it. But I know that it has a lot of sugar in it. And then so I'm trying to weigh, is it good or is it bad? Or what do you think of products like these?
So if you look at the sugar, actually, I check another brand. I don't know what I can mention. It's a Danone for children. It has the same amount of sugar as Snickers bar. So yes, it does has probiotic. That's true, but the amount of sugar, it's almost not worth it. So there are a lot of fermented product. You can buy sugar-free. My recommendation: buy a sugar-free plain yogurt and add fruit yourself. Add blended strawberries, mango, banana, even a bit of grated chocolate. You can grate chocolate on a grater and sprinkle it. That's a million times better than buying those products with tons of sugar. I would say sugar is the biggest enemy of the children immune system. And there are studies which shows that effectiveness of white blood cells decrease about 50% after eating sugar. And this lasts up to 5 hours. So especially that was sort of irony of the whole lockdown, when people wanted to do everything to build the immune system, and obviously there was a coronavirus threat, but there was so much baking going on. That was not maybe the best choice if you went for the white refined sugar, because that really ruin your immune system for a few hours. And obviously if you do it on a daily basis, that significantly weaken your immune system.
What's the substitute? I mean, look, we can't just remove sweet because
Yeah.
again, we our palate is made to taste salty, sour, umami, bitter, sweet as well. So, and especially kids. I mean, and again, I mean, I'm saying kids, but look, I mean, I'm guilty as well. I like my sweet, and it's so hard, like especially with kids, like all these beautiful colored candies, and they love it. I mean, there's a reason why they're addictive and all of that. But as parents, what can we do? Which is a substitute. Now, again, fruit, I would say, is not 100% substitute because
No,
they don't see it
I
like that.
agree. I absolutely agree. But actually, to start with, the children like those things because somebody introduced them to that. When you when you actually meet some people, elderly people, which they grew up in times when sugar was a luxury, they find most of the commercial desserts too sweet because they are not used to that. And if kids are not used to that on a daily basis, at some point even they will develop self-defense, saying, "Oh, that's too sweet for me. That's not what I like." So that's, I would say, the starting point. But as a good substitution of sweetener, if it's baking, I love dates. If you just blend dates with water, really sweet, add also extra thickness to your dessert, and it can replace sugar. You can try coconut sugar. You can try banana works from all the fruits. If it's mashed banana, that's very ripe. Those bananas with the black spots, well, are super sweet. That's the one. Maple syrup, it's actually a great replacement. You can try with sweet potatoes. And when I talk sweet potatoes, these are orange sweet potatoes. They are a bit sweeter than those purple ones. Purple are more starchy, not so sweet, but I make a brownies, for example, where I mash sweet potatoes, and they are really sweet. Not as sugar, it's not this level, but I think you can develop the taste for that.
Right. And you mentioned the product maple syrup. Now, again, when I go to the store, right, I see maple syrup, which is for $3 something. And then I see a maple syrup, which is actually almost like 20 something dollars. And I'm thinking they're both maple syrups, right? And yeah, I may not, I mean, I look at that, it says maple syrup, maple syrup. What do you think is the difference between, I mean, of course, maybe the country of origin sometimes is different and it could be more expensive, but how do I decide between the two?
Again, we're coming back to reading ingredients. Maple syrup should have one and one ingredient only, which is maple syrup. Anything what is more than one ingredient, it's not a maple syrup, it's artificial product. But you can actually find now in Singapore a lot of pure maple syrup. But that means you actually have to check the label in the back.
Got it. Yeah. And I know you keep coming back to reading labels, and I want to tell all the parents as well. I mean, we're all juggling with so many things, our work and, kids and houses. And when we just order things, especially now, I think with ordering online, it's even harder because, there's very little picture and we're not able to zoom into it. And we just buy what we buy. And, the traditional way where we're taking our little cart and we're picking things and we're reading, we're not able to do that anymore. But again, I think a word of caution is that if you're not cooking at home, or if you're buying produce or products, not even products, make sure you read the label, right, Anya?
Yes, always, because sometimes they are really nasty surprises. When you check average ketchup, you would think the tomatoes are number one average ketchup, and not organic, but average ketchup. The first ingredient is sugar. It means there's more sugar than tomatoes, and that's not what you will expect.
Right. Fair point. Now, you mentioned organic, and I wanted to ask you, there's obviously a lot of debate between, organic, we all know is healthier, but how necessary is organic, to be very honest? And, considering again the price for organic, is it still worth for people to go and buy organic, or what would be some items you think are better? Because we can't buy everything organic, perhaps, but are there certain products you would recommend that we buy organic, whereas some, we can just go with some good regular brand as long as we know what we're buying?
Yes, the price difference between regular products and organic, sometimes it's more than double, and it does make you think. There is a website which is updated each year, and it's a global data. It's 30 dozen, and it shows you the most polluted vegetables worldwide. But there are few which are always on the top, which are unfortunately strawberries, apples, potatoes, for example, which apparently they can accumulate inside a lot of pesticides. But there is, for example, avocado, which apparently it's not worth to pay organic because the pesticides don't go through the skin. It's a great website running by scientists in US, and they collect data from all around the world, and they check which vegetables, sort of how the agriculture is changing each year, and they checking for us which vegetables are worth to buy organic or which of them maybe not. Check, it's Dirty Dozen. I think if you just Google it, you get updates, regular updates, and that will show you what are the most polluted fruit and vegetables in the world.
What about involving children in this process of cooking? Do you think, especially when it's difficult ingredient that we find it very hard to make them eat, would you say involving them in the cooking process? Of course, depending on how old they are, near the heat or something, we probably might avoid. But in things that they can do, do you think that would be an interesting way to get them to like, enjoy, and understand about food?
Yes, I actually seen interesting studies in UK. The children, those which they were fast eaters to the level they didn't want to eat anything. There are special. There was a one center in UK which did mini cooking classes for children. They actually ate the dishes which they prepared, even though they contained the ingredients which before they were never touched, like broccoli or beetroot. But once they were involved from the beginning, even if they couldn't do everything, even if they couldn't peel the beetroot because you might use the sharp knife, but they were involved in maybe mixing it or maybe season it or mash it, depends on the dish. It did sort of make them to eat. And I do believe that this is a great way, as I say, to spend quality time with your children. I do conduct cooking classes where I teach very basic recipe. Probably for most of the adults, it might be something obvious, but I try to, kids, I think, like to get their hands dirty. So I try to do things when they can do hands-on, like making burgers themselves, making pancakes, very simple recipe which they can replicate, depends on the age, either absolutely alone or with a small help from the parents. But it also, I think, sets them for life to understand the importance of cooking, of homemade meal versus the one which you're getting from outside.
For everybody out there, we have shared Ania's details on the chat group. So if you had any questions later on or want to understand a little bit more about nutrition or even engage in some of the cooking sessions, whether it's just for you as grown-ups or with the children, should be more than happy to help out. And thank you so much, Ania, for this informative and thought-provoking discussion. It's always such a pleasure to speak with you and hear from you and understand. And I'm sure all the parents have joined us today. They're definitely going back more armed on what foods to give and definitely what to avoid. So once again, thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed the session today, and we hope the kids enjoyed this session. And take care and good night.